have a second? Be right with us.
Thumbs up.
Good. We're good to go?
All right.
Bring the meeting to order, please.
All right, welcome to the first meeting of 2021 Damariscotta Pumpkinfest.
And Regatta.
Maybe.
Question mark? Regatta.
So as everybody knows, last year didn't happen. We did do a way off. So was it like we? I have a chair over there. Wasn't like we didn't do anything. We tried to support our growers because, like I said to somebody earlier today, without pumpkins, we're really just a carnival. I mean, we're just like every other festival without the pumpkins. So we need to keep that in mind, whatever we do this year, and however this turns out on the other end. So we have to keep in mind that those growers put a lot of time and effort into these things, and without them, we're just like any other festival. So we'll go down through the agenda here, how this is going to go. Obviously, we just did the welcome. We're going to review the meeting schedule like we always do. We have some proposed dates. Now, this is an assumption that we're doing a full lot festival like we always have. So anything can happen and things can change, but if you have dates set, at least you have those dates open to work through things, and we're going to continue as normal until we're told we can or something else goes on. So we'll go over that and approve those dates, and then we're going to go over the potential for each event to happen this year as we know it right now. Obviously, it's early. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how this is going to go down in the end. We have a list on the second page here that shows the major events, pretty much every event we have. Okay, there's a few missing, but we'll address them. Who the chair is, if we need a chair, which is also issues. We've had a lot of people evacuate their chairman positions, retire and so forth, so we need to look at that. We need to talk about number 4 here, if needed, and we're going to go forward and we're going to do that anyway until we decide it's not going to happen, is we need to pick a potential candidates for a local nonprofit for the Grand Marshal of the Parade, like we do every year. So we'll go over that, and then we'll go over any other business we have and discussion, and that'll be that. Any questions? All right.
Questions online down there?
Not yet.
Okay.
One thought, like it might just be great, Bill, if you would introduce yourself for the folks who are watching online, maybe who don't
Sorry,
know.
I'm not used to being on camera. So my name is Bill Clark. I'm one of the founders and directors of Damariscotta Pumpkinfest. I've been involved in this since the beginning, or before the beginning, when this guy taught me into this. So
It wasn't my fault.
I know it's your fault.
You're right.
If anybody doesn't know, this is Buzz Pinkham, the other founder, another director. And before we get going, well, I guess we'll go over the dates first, and then I'm going to turn it over to Buzz for a minute for some thoughts that him and I discussed earlier today on where we think, just some thoughts. We'll leave it at that. So let's review some meeting dates. Starting with, obviously, meeting 1 is today on March 18th. If anybody has issues with the date or thinks that we need to adjust this up a little bit, just holler. Meeting 2 would be April 15th.
That's my birthday.
Well, then we definitely need to have a meeting that day.
Used to be tax day. Drink cake.
Okay, meeting 3 is scheduled 2 weeks later for April 25th. Is that in lieu of the meeting just before Seedling Sunday? Is that the idea, Claire?
That's right.
Okay, so that's why we moved that up. That's to go over final details. for Seedling Sunday. Meeting 4 would be May 13th, and then we go back to monthly. So 5 would be this June 17th, where we would vote on the t-shirt artist winner, assuming that's a go. Meeting 6 would be July 15th. Meeting 7 would be August 12th. Meeting 8 would be August 26th. And then we start going every 2 weeks. Meeting 9 would be September 2nd. Meeting 10, September 9th. 11 would be September 16th. We always throw this one in there in case. This is meeting 12 would be September 23rd, just in case. We usually cancel that meeting because it's just prior, and that's just if we've got major issues that we need to discuss. And then finally, there'd be the lessons learned meeting on October 28th after the festival. Anybody have any issues with those dates? All right, that was easy. So I'm going to turn it over to Buzz for some thoughts about this year before we start going over each event and you know, do we think it can happen or not? Just some things to think about that him and I discussed earlier today. Mr. Pinkham.
Well, hello. Obviously, this year is a lot different, but it's almost back to the beginning, because each one of these events and this whole festival, we kind of have to figure out as we went along. Already, I have a challenge that the Round Top campus has been closed, where we have a lot of our, several of our activities. And it might seem that, well, we just won't do those activities, or maybe there's another way of doing them at a different venue. But it all comes down that this is it's a community event. It's not Buzz's festival or Bill's festival. It's the community festival, and that's what's made it successful as all these years. This year it's going to take a few more hoops to jump through, and I mean everything from how do we finance what we do, that's a little bit different maybe. Typically downtown businesses who look forward to the festival play a major part in sponsoring what we do. In the past, it's about a $100,000 budget, and can we? Well, there aren't as many businesses that around this year that were maybe there last year, and the ones that have survived, do they have the ability to participate and sponsor like they have in the past? So we may have to look at how we fund this event this year. Maybe there's some things that we're not going to be able to do. Maybe we aren't going to do the parade. That involves shuttles. Maybe we aren't going to have shuttles, or if we do have shuttles, I don't know, maybe we have to have twice as many, so there's distancing. Maybe we don't need the barricades that we've had in the past. I think that was like a, I don't know, $6,000, $7,000. 4,500.
Well, yeah, that was gonna increase because if we bought more, obviously we increased more.
Yeah. So also the cost of doing things has gone up. I think insurance has gone up, and who knows what it costs to get a porta potty these days. So these are all things that we'll have to take into consideration. But it comes down to having the volunteers. If we're going to try to have a drop, and somebody's interested, then we need to find a different venue. I was kind of anxious to hear what Larry might have to say. I think you had a conversation with the Inn by the Way.
I did, I spoke with Sherry Flynn, the director up there. She was excited about the possibility that we come up there. She has to, of course, run it by her board, which will be this week as well. I believe it was this week, and she said he'd get back to me. She was excited about it. The possibility of getting buses in and out of there was a lot, really simple, easy on and easy off. Get down Route 1. The lower barn is the only barn that's really would be able to be used for anything as far as food distribution or whatever we did down. I never got into the Darrell's barn to see what we did down there because we were busy doing something else. There's plenty of room there to do a drop for people to spread out. Parking, I think it might be advantageous because people almost have to go by bus to get there. There's not a lot of parking. That field across the street may be available for parking. We don't know yet, but it's a big possibility. I mean, she was pretty excited about it.
Well, at least there's some open space there. And
There is.
And we have to, put up a big tent.
Well, I think from a safety point of view, and probably talk to Chief about that, we can control the traffic up there much better than we could down there with Hammond Lumber and the YMCA and people walking all back and forth across the road and whatnot. And the accessibility to get on Route 1 to leave the Pumpkinfest, getting to and from it would be much easier to control, So that aspect of it. On the barricade side of it, I'm already talking to a sponsor about sponsoring the barricades. I don't know. I put the request in kind of a, hey, this is a good idea, what do you think? And she said she would go to the powers to be. Those are the two things right now that I haven't talked to the school buses yet.
So, I guess all is not lost. That sounds like a good possibility, but again, whoever's in chairing that event or those events will have to come up with a little bit different SOP than where we had it before, but maybe it'll turn out easier. So, I guess the festival itself is kind of celebrates absurdity, and we kind of have to think outside the box, and I guess this year you might have to think outside the box even more. So hopefully there's enough in the community that want to make the effort to make this happen, and it just comes down to we'll do what we can do with what resources we have and what volunteers we have. And if we have to do less, we'll do less, and if we can do what we have been doing, well, great.
I'm going to interject here. We've never really had a budget committee, so to speak. Have we? Was it always just like Kathy and Sarah and Jen talking? Maybe this might be a good year that we
used our ledgers, expenses, and incoming from years past, and then what we knew from this is going up this year, we knew ahead of time or that, and we kind of based it on that. So that's how that's gone as far as is very itemized. And all we did was, this is what we spent last year. We know this stuff's going up. We know maybe we're doing this extra thing, so we're gonna add that, but we're not doing this, so it kind of was that. So yes, but we did it.
Well, you did it more individually than as a committee, didn't you?
Yeah, we did it off to the side.
Maybe this is a good time to set up a committee, and a 2 or 3 person committee to monitor that as it goes. Where we'll kind of start, like as you said, starting over, take some of the load off.
Well, this year's definitely gonna be different because, like we've talked before, it was a difficult year for a lot of businesses and people, and it's up to them as to what this is gonna be. Yes, Sam?
I was just gonna say, once we decide what events we think we wanna do, we can go back into the accounting records and pull the expenses for those events to try and get a sense on what they're
Kind of what I
gonna
was
be.
getting at,
Yeah. Well, that sounds like that's what you've done in the past.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a festival last year, so how are we starting this year's festival from a financial standpoint?
I don't have the numbers in front of me right now of what we have had in the bank account. Generally, year to year, it was, hey, look, we broke even, great, and then we start over.
Okay.
If there was any surplus, it wasn't a ton, because usually we work to try to break even and not go in the hole, and that's how we worked that. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if there's anything in there, it's not a lot. And we should always think of it as we're starting over, we're starting from scratch, so there's nothing to start with. So that's how it's always gone.
Usually it's been enough to do some of the early things that we do, the pumpkin seedling, which, Sunday, which isn't a big expense, and
Ordering t-shirts.
and then, you know, the t-shirt contest and that sort of thing.
So yeah, it was kind of enough to carry us until sponsorship started, the sponsorship drive started, and then we'd catch up from there and we'd get there.
Well, while you're talking about money, I've talked to a few of the sponsors already, a couple of the big ones. And I know Jen York, who's not here, and Jane Oliver also, who's not here, but she's talked to a few, and they're on board. And talking to the general business community downtown, which I touch base with a fair amount of them, you know, through just daily work, they want this festival. Now, we may not be able to expect the same level of support sponsorship-wise, but I don't think you're gonna get people that are gonna say no.
Right.
You know, it may be that they were $1,000 sponsor and now they're a $500 sponsor. So I believe there's gonna be support there. And in the last couple of weeks, since the governor kind of raised the expectation that we're going to have, hopefully, you know, a summer tourist season, and people are getting vaccinated, I think people are beginning, I mean, I'm seeing just in the business, just people are moving around, they're more comfortable, they're coming out, and people want to do something. Now I feel, you know, so the sponsorship piece, I don't think we're gonna have a problem there. I think our biggest issue is going to be with the governing body of how we're able to do things, or what we are or aren't allowed to do.
Safely.
Safely.
Yeah.
You know, I can speak to the catering side of things because we're watching this very carefully. There's 2 dates now, one at the end of this month where we're gonna be allowed 50% inside, 100% outside, then it or 75%, then it goes up to 75% of occupancy inside of a building and 100% outside. Well, none of our events outside technically have, you know, I guess you're allowed to do anything you want because there's no occupancy there. But you still have to, they are still sticking steadfast to the 6-foot distancing.
I was 3 foot now.
Oh, no,
No.
it's still 6. Has
That's
not
for
moved.
schools.
And they're saying that we're asking for guidance on our side for the business, and they're saying that it's coming, and when it comes, it's going to be for the season. It's not gonna be, we're gonna adjust it in July and we're gonna adjust it in August. So hopefully as we see these things come out, we'll know what we have to deal with early enough to make decisions.
Right.
That's what we need as my business and as we need as a festival. You know, hopefully we get that direction from the DECD, I guess it is, yeah. They're gonna give us the guidance, and I think there's gonna be some phone calls that probably Claire and I are gonna have to make to someone in Augusta and say, we're trying to put a festival together. What are we allowed to do? What are we not allowed to do? You know, somebody said at one point, and this is just an example, I don't know where it'll go, is the regatta. We could film the regatta. We're doing, you know, a meeting, you know, Larry at LCTV, we could film the regatta, we could, you know, do it virtual. My point was, is you drop a pumpkin in that river, you're gonna draw people. And now all of a sudden, we're responsible as a festival, I would assume, to govern what's going on down there. You know, and this goes to the town also, and this is, I talked to Matt, and he can't be here, but you guys are here. And I said, Matt, what do we do? You know, who's in charge of, you know, making sure that everybody stays 6 feet apart? And he's like, I don't know. He said, we're gonna have to look north of that. Yeah, me
Well,
me too.
If you
Up to
put,
individuals.
if you put a pumpkin anywhere, it's gonna draw people.
He's gonna draw people, right?
Attractive nuisance.
Right. I did talk, and that's another thing that, because I know there's been a lot of rumors about, you know, why Round Top closed and why they shut down their season. I did call and talk to our liability insurer with this, which is through Cheney, and I said, where do we stand on this? Is there any chance that our liability could be pulled? Because if that's pulled, then we really got nothing. And they said, no, not at all. What they do is they put an exclusion clause into all all contracts, and especially when you have umbrella liability, that it basically says if you come to a festival and you were to contract some viral disease, the festival cannot be held responsible for that. She said, so that's just, it's a clause that's going into all contracts. It doesn't affect the cost of our insurances, so we'll be covered there. And so that was good news, so.
Can we use our insurance on Round Top campus? That was the issue.
I don't think they want
I
any.
think it goes way beyond that,
Okay.
for them to shut down.
I think the insurance was what they told us about, but what they, I don't know. That was their decision. I don't think they want people on it. Where are we next?
Where are we next? All right, we're talking about budgets.
Any more discussion before we start going down through events and what maybe we can and can't do, and maybe even pick up some chair people? That would be neat.
Claire?
Hi, everybody. I'm Claire Summer, just for folks I don't know. And I just wanted to let people know that we have 32 people with us on the live stream, which is really wonderful, including a couple of our longtime Pumpkinfest friends and volunteers, including Rick Hagan and Phyllis Gus. And that's really, really super. And we've actually also had an offer to start a GoFundMe from a person named Ellsworth, who says, I'll start a GoFundMe, just because they love the festival so much.
That might not be a bad idea as a way to help supplement the festival as we put that on our social media webpage constantly and help whatever you get. You might only get 1,000, but you might get 10,000. Who knows? We've had some limited luck with that.
And Edwin just joined us, one of our key and top growers.
Edwin,
Hello, Edwin.
keep up the good work, Edwin.
That's a bonus.
I'm not gonna harass him online. All right, so, I don't know how many of these we handed out.
Does everybody here have a copy of the proposed events?
I got you.
Anybody else need one, Donna?
Seedling Sunday, Billy, do you want somebody out there to film that? Is it worth filming? I've never been, so.
Well,
I don't
here,
know.
we need to have a little bit of a discussion on that when we
Okay.
get there. So we'll just go in order and we'll discuss as we need to.
Yep.
So starting out, and this is just how the order is on this sheet. The T-shirt design contest. The reason that's up here fairly early is because we need to solicit to artists to start thinking about putting their designs together, so that we can have those by June to vote on. Unfortunately, last year, I'm sure a lot of designs were already underway or done when we had to pull a plug. It's just how it goes. It's beyond our control. So,
We do have, I think, 3 designs left over from last year, and we told them that we would move them.
roll them.
Yeah.
So,
And we have a new chair for that position too.
Yeah.
the new chair is Jennifer Cooley. So in my opinion, we should proceed with that until we can't, or until we're told that we have to do something different.
I don't see why we can't do T-shirts.
Regardless.
Regardless, I mean, we do the T-shirts, and even if we don't have a huge parade and other venue pieces, we can still sell these virtually. We did.
Well, here's the
This
reason.
goes to Wendy. You
We
sold
can,
a lot of
yeah.
these.
The only thing that depends on is can we afford to buy the T-shirts?
But we can reduce the amount that we buy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Just to
Yes.
make sure that we're
We
covered
just
that
gotta
way.
make sure we can cover that cost to have them made and all that.
Well, the initial first batch you order could be smaller to match your budget.
We can't do that because of the time, how long it takes to actually generate the T-shirts.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And it's almost double the cost because if you have to do 2 runs. So I can put together a document in regards to the timing.
Alright, so I'd say that's a yes.
That's a yes.
Seedling Sunday, that's gotta be a yes, because, that's where we give out 600 seedlings to our volunteers. believe it or not, more than 50% of our fruit for the festival come from the volunteers that come to the way off if we have one, which I'll get to in a minute. And so I think that's just definitely a yes. Last year we did it kind of drive-through sort of style, and we spread them out in a couple of locations. So we know we can do it because we did it last year.
And that also speaks to our mission statement, that it's the agricultural piece, and that's.
Promoting,
We need to maintain that.
right.
I think there's also a educational piece there. We've had the third grade from GSB help us with the Seedling Sunday filling pots. I don't know if that's gonna be doable this year, but I did have some requests from like Bristol School, the first and second graders, kindergarten teachers. I think we got them about 50 or 60 seedlings for all their students to raise at home as a family project. And it might be interesting to check back with some of those teachers to see how that worked out. But growing a pumpkin, I mean, it could be a curriculum associated with growing pumpkins at whatever age group. And that does speak to our mission statement, so maybe we'll give that some consideration.
Another reason we did this last year is because I think we were right at the point of, we thought we might have to say, we can't do this, but we gave them out anyway, so people could take them home and it would be something they could do while they're locked down. And I think a lot of people did, and we don't know what the results were because we didn't see them come back, but I think you'll hear from people this year that they actually did grow, and they're looking forward to doing better this year, so.
Maybe we could have a campaign or track that on Facebook, or start something to that.
Yeah, show progress, or,
Yeah.
you know, have different names for the pumpkins, something like that would be great.
We've tried in the past to track it. I still think it's doable. We just haven't had a lot of luck with people getting back to us. How's it going?
Right, okay.
We have opened it up to questions to me, which sometimes was involved going places, you know, people had an issue, so I'd go check it out. But, you know, you can only do so much of that, so. Yeah, but, I mean, that's definitely a yes. Sponsorships, obviously, is definitely a yes.
And Jen and Jane are working on that.
Way off. I just want to touch on that for a minute. Volunteer way off, like I said, produces over 50% of the fruit. We've always had a way off for those volunteers to go home with your seedling, do what you do, bring back the result that you have, and we'll weigh it, and we'll have a little way off for all of you volunteers. We started out with some gift certificates and stuff from around town. We progressed to cash prizes. We had oil, you know, from Hobing Gale. We had lots of things for prizes. So it's not out of the question to say we've done lots of things. We can be creative and do things again for those volunteers as long as we can have that way off. And knowing that we had the big way off last year on a limited scale, I know we can do it, and we can do it safely. So I don't see an issue with the volunteer way off.
Well, the volunteer way off, I mean, that's really important. That's the farm team for the folks that eventually emerge as
Pros.
pros, I guess. I can remember when we had one, our state record holder was on the farm team, and he quickly moved up to the varsity. So Edwin, I'm glad we started out that way.
I think it's important also on the sponsorship side of this, going to the way-offs, is that, in particular for our professional growers, is that the prize money gets back to them.
Yep, I was getting
So
to that.
I think that needs to be a priority.
So I'm gonna kind of throw that turd on the table right now.
Yeah.
In that last year, another town showed up at the way off, knowing that we didn't have prize money, and approached a bunch of the growers and bought a bunch of the fruit so that they could have them on display in that town. Now, at the time, it wasn't such a bad thing, because one, I know I have the loyalty of my growers. Two, those guys didn't make anything last year, and these things are not cheap to grow, especially when you're growing 1,500, 2,000 pound fruit. They're not cheap. So it was an opportunity for them to at least make something, because we had no prize money, no prize structure. That was fine. I'm hearing rumors that some growers have been approached already by that other town, and as far as I know, they've said their loyalty is with Damariscotta Pumpkinfest. And I'm not worried about that at all. But we need to get that prize structure in some format. Now, it doesn't have to be at the level that it always has been. However, that's where all your big fruit comes from. All the big fruit downtown, drop, boats, everything comes from the big way off, for the most part. There's a few that come from volunteer, but I mean, anything that's of size that we have to have when you're up around 1,000 pounds, you're not gonna get very many of them out of volunteers, so we have to have those. And we kind of have an agreement where we have the way off, we have the prize structure, we buy their fruit, but they're right there for us. We buy them and we put them aside, and we only have to move them once. We don't have to travel to Sanford or all over creation. I have the whole state coming to us. And I believe I still have that, as long as we get our price structure back. Otherwise, those guys are gonna start going elsewhere, and there's plenty of other way-offs around. And we lose the bubble, and without, like I said at the beginning, without fruit, we're just a carnival.
Bill, do you have any one business that sponsors the biggest pumpkin or anything like that?
Nope. It's
You have
been,
a team of
it's
different
been for years, ever since I convinced people that I needed that price structure, and they finally realized that they got it.
So you took it as part of the budget, so you, yeah, okay, that's what I was asking. Maybe that's something we look at is if we're sponsored maybe at the Shives, find a sponsor for the biggest pumpkin or.
I know one sponsor that would, they'd pony.
Yeah, I think so too.
They'd pony for the, they'd
Well, we
pony
can
for
talk
the,
about
for the
that.
professionals.
I guess just the message I was trying to get through is this is definitely a yes, because we have to support the growers, because if we don't, we have nothing.
There's a reason that, well, you don't see other towns doing what we do. That's because other towns aren't willing to put in $10 or $15 or $20,000 to have a field of pumpkins in their town. And, you know, that's why we stand out. Nobody else does what we do.
And just for instance, I don't want to hold up on this much longer, but if you go anywhere else and approach growers to try and buy their fruit, they're trying to charge you $1 a pound. You know, especially the ones from Massachusetts, they want $1 a pound for their fruit. The guys up here know, I've only got so much money. I'm willing to pay you as well as I can, and you can go home with a pretty good check in your pocket, or you can go home with your fruit and it can rot on your lawn. I mean, that's what it comes down to. They get it. It took a long time for them to get it. It took a long time for people involved in Pumpkinfest to understand that that's a lot of money, but this is what you're gonna get in return. Trust me, it'll happen. And it's happened. And it happens every year. And they're loyal to us, so. Moving on. Pumpkin artists. I think our very minimal goal this year is to put fruit on the street. I mean, if things go to hell again and we're forced to pull back, at the very least, I think the town, the businesses, and you can back me up on this, want at least to have some fruit downtown. Again, you put fruit on, you put one of these pumpkins anywhere, you're gonna draw people. So you gotta keep that in the back of your head. Do you really want all these people? But at the bare minimum, we wanna have fruit in town, and I assume that means we want artists to decorate, carve, sculpt, etc.
Right. And Claire, I think you can talk to Lisa Conway, because this is something you've been working with her.
Yeah, Lisa Conway, who I'm not positive she's on the live stream. I know she was having meeting conflicts like a lot of people. She's gone over all the responsibilities of the recruiting of artists to paint the pumpkins and then help with the matching process of when the fruit shows up after way off and it gets matched with Bill's help to where each of those pumpkins is going to go. She's had several conversations with John Bristow, who's our retiring pumpkin artist chair, and she's in to do it. So she's gone through all of the responsibilities in great detail and reviewed them all with me. And I think we have a really good plan, and I think she's a really great person to fulfill this really critical role.
So that's a yes.
Oh, Lisa says she's on the live stream. Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much.
Lisa.
And Jane Gravel just joined us as well.
Hello, Jane.
So, having artists means we need fruit, which means we need to have deployment, which is the next item, which includes pallets and pumpkins and burlap and all that fun stuff. I talked to Ted Perkins this morning because before we could decide if we were going to have pumpkins downtown, we have to know that Hammond Lumber is on board to help with the forklifts because we can't just pick these things up and move them. Ted assured me that they are on board. I said, as long as we can do this safely and properly, are you guys still in? He says, absolutely. So we've already confirmed one thing for this year.
Todd and Sarah still, they'll organize the deployment, as they have in the past. At least that was their
Sergeant Sarah?
Sergeant Sarah, I believe, will be there.
I wouldn't have it any other way at
No,
deployment
sir.
though. That's why we could deploy 80 pumpkins in an hour and a half.
We are organized and on the march.
She don't play.
She don't play.
We even had a volunteer for deployment from California, was that?
Yeah, we got a message on Facebook of someone saying that they really want to help with crowd control and helping the forklifts move around safely
Yeah, they want
downtown.
to walk in front of the pumpkins.
So we're gonna send them to all the Newcastle fruit. There you go. So that's a yes.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll need pallets and pallet wrappers and all that.
Yeah.
So, but that's
We're
details
gonna have
down
to
the road.
look carefully at what we got and what's survivable.
So,
Yeah.
and apologies, Rick Hagan has just chimed in to say that he's in for deployment and so is Ted Seelar.
Siler, yep.
Thank you,
So
Siler.
Rick and Ted are in.
Does that include pallets?
Yeah. You can take them downtown.
Well, they did before.
Did they? Okay, parade.
Well, as far as the parade goes, we would love to be able to have it. At this point, we have been reaching out to the bigger outside folks who aren't from our community to, ask them if they want to be involved. People want to be involved. However, they're all still very tentative, awaiting, like Jed was saying, what are they going to be told? What can their organization even allow their employees to do? And so forth. Realistically, unless we get told that there's no social distancing required, however, I'm a realist, we're not gonna be able to do the parade the way it's always been done because it's just not feasible. As you were talking about crowds coming in, you put a pumpkin, you get people. You have an event set for a certain amount of time, those people are gonna come for that window of time. Then we have masses of people coming, and if we are responsible for making sure that they're distancing, I don't know, that would be to, the chief, how, yeah, exactly.
Nice try, there's a mirror there, as you noticed.
How are we, that's like, you just, we can't put up limits on each end of Main Street saying, only this number of people, and when we get to that number of people, okay, nobody else can come watch the parade. I
You're
mean,
either all or nothing.
exactly, that's where we're at, so honestly, we're moving forward, requesting people, getting inquiries out there, do you wanna join us? And waiting until we get the final word in June, I think was when we had set a date to determine whether we can do this or not.
Jumping on that realist bandwagon, I mean, I guess Festival of Lights did a reverse parade, I guess they called it. But you know what, with the amount of people that we draw,
Yeah.
you can't have
No,
a fixed parade of people driving by. It would be your worst nightmare as far as traffic jam.
yeah,
See, it's gonna be an all or nothing deal, that's the way it's gonna be.
It's gotta
If
be.
you proceed like it's gonna be an all, and if we find out it can't be an all, then it's gonna be nothing.
so at this
I don't
point,
say-
You can just reduce, not.
No, but I mean, we're talking parade. Talking
Okay.
Yeah,
Parades.
Okay.
but we are moving forward right now, preparing as though we are going to do it, with the understanding that as realistic probably
So I
will
would
not.
list that as tentative because we just, that's a maybe. Yeah, we just don't know. I mean, until we see where we end up when we have to say yay or nay.
Roger?
Should there be a column, another column that gives a drop dead date for all these that you have to make a decision by?
Thank you, that's something that we set earlier, actually last fall, I think. Claire, what was the date? You said June 1, right? That was the go, no-go on everything. We'll make a decision June 1. At that point, because that's where we have to start developing a lot of the sponsorships, and we have to start organizing to be ready for October. So June 1 was the drop-dead date on what are we doing? So that would be true of all of these. If we get to June and we don't have good direction, or we don't feel we can do, then any one of these items, then that's our cut bait time.
And that sounds like it's a long ways out, but there's so many moving parts
It
to
happens
this
so fast.
giant that you just have to give enough time to react.
Thank you, Rob.
First aid info.
Yes, I'm on board. I have people who have stated from last year that they'd love to be able to assist this year in whatever modified version that we need to, because obviously we may not need them at all events. Things may be a bit adjusted, but yes, we
I
are
think-
prepared to assist.
I think if you're gonna have, at a minimum, you're gonna have fruit downtown, and there's gonna be any amount of events canceled, that you need to have info and you need to have safety no matter what.
Probably
Or
during
in
the
some
weekend.
form.
Yeah, you're gonna have to
Yeah.
have safety, because there's just gonna be, there are gonna be a fair amount of people.
Definitely.
You're gonna have a million
We're
questions.
talking safety.
The chief
took off.
Start running.
Well, I can only imagine that people have been pent up for over a year now, and if we take the leash off, it's probably gonna be, very well attended.
Misbehaving.
A lot of folks, and with that comes, what comes with that.
Yeah, so I would say, yeah, first aid, I think to Bill's point is that we're gonna need to have something at least
Right.
available. I think it would be remiss if we didn't, with the possibility of crowds, just wandering, looking at pumpkins,
Oh, exactly.
so.
So a lot of these coming up, I think, are gonna fall into the maybe category.
Right.
Food vendors. If we're down to just pumpkins, do we need food? Depends, right? It depends. That's the problem, everything depends.
Going to what he just said, they've been pent up and leashed up for so long. The reason we got into the food vendor piece, and I'm speaking away from, because I was not involved in the actual organization at the time, is that there were so many people that the fixed restaurants couldn't handle what was there
On a full-up schedule.
on a full-up schedule. And I'm not sure if all the restaurants could handle just the pumpkins being out on that weekend. So this may be something that may be modified. I know I've already talked to Colby and Gail. They're willing to give us the space over there across the street again for the food court. So that is there if we want it.
I mean, it all is gonna come down to your ruling that you have to follow for the season.
Again, yes. And then there's also, there's all kinds of rules with food too. It's,
Yeah.
You can't, the whole food service business
You
has
may wanna
changed.
do this, but you may not be able to get the people to do it
Right,
to what you want because they're not geared to do it.
right. You have to be geared up and be able to handle distancing and.
If we have a remote venue, like in By the Way, you may wanna have somebody up there.
Right.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
So again, I think food vendors and Margaret's volunteered and is willing to step up, and we thank her for that. I think that's a wait and see. I mean, it's.
And same thing with the buskers and performers, it's a wait and see, because it's the same idea. You could maybe move them up to the farm, but it depends on how far back you're scaled.
We do need a chair.
Bill stepped down?
We
Bruce
did,
stepped down?
Bill, and, well, Bruce said he would help in some, well, Claire, you were involved there. I don't wanna speak out of line.
Yes, so Bill has retired from the role, and Bruce said he would help, but that he needs a chair to step up to coordinate.
Buskers.
At the end of the day here, we probably should take the list of chairs that we need and do some, recruiting on social media and any other venue we have, and get the word out there that we need these chairs, and we need to get it in front of eyes, however we can do it. So yeah, again, that was a maybe.
Right.
Lincoln Theater, I guess it's,
They're opening tomorrow, so they're going.
I guess it's the same thing.
Yeah, they're going.
We might be able to use them depending on, are we gonna, remote this, or are we gonna remote that?
Right.
We just don't know.
Yeah, they have a new director coming in too, but Andrew's still our, Andrew's our one. We're on the Derby next.
Derby,
I have a statement from Rick. Is Rick still online with us?
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Rick, I'm gonna read your statement. He sent us a note this morning, so I'm just gonna go through it. It says, Pumpkinfest, opinions and Derby expectations. He says, I think we should have a festival this year that is pared down and looks somewhat different. I vote on having giant pumpkins lining Main Street and decorated. I think we could have a parade or maybe a little smaller depending. And depending on where COVID is, vaccines, etc. in the summer months, what does that, our new normal look, and do we need our transportation plans? We need to rethink how the regatta is done, he says. Now, going directly to the Derby/pit crew and installation. He says, I do not see being able to pull off this event for a 2021 festival for several reasons. This event relies on sponsors to fund it. In the past, we've had the first in Newcastle, Randy Miller, as the primary sponsors of that. Randy Miller has sold his business. You guys don't know that. So he sold the car dealership. So the cupboard is completely bare as far as materials go. It'll cost upwards of $1,500 for materials, wheels, axles, hardware, signage, etc. to make this event complete. He has an agreement with Weatherbird, the Weatherbird owner, Wayne Moore, for the use of the ramp next to his building or the hillside where they run the actual derby itself. So that is agreed upon. Many of the volunteers are older and may not be comfortable this year being so close to proximity of hundreds of people that participate and watch this event. He said he will have a hard time locating additional volunteers to source this event. So, looks like he's reluctant, if not a no, on this. Sponsorship piece, I think that's yet to be seen. I think we just leave this as a maybe.
I think the sponsorship is there. I don't know what all the parts and pieces.
Parts and pieces, that's a,
I think you can find $1,500 to do that.
well,
That was-
he's also right about his volunteers too.
I agree.
A lot of events are gonna depend on how comfortable are the volunteers to do whatever they need to do for that event.
Well, 6 months from now, they may have gotten their vaccines and things have calmed down, and they may not have that fear factor, but that's up, I mean, it's a personal decision.
Well, that fits into that drop dead date of June 1st. You've still got plenty of time to get all the stuff that you need for a derby from June 1st. So why don't we table that and move on?
Dessert contest, I mean, it's the same idea, and the pie eating contest, it's the same idea. You're dealing with food, we may be under rules because it's food.
can you see a pie eating contest right now?
I can't even
Come on.
imagine.
so nasty.
I don't know how you can pull that off.
So
It'd be like, go, back up and
I
cover
would like
your.
to mention that the reigning champion Josh is with us on the live stream.
He's good.
He just ate 2 pies while he was watching.
Training.
He's in training.
So, I mean, you could put a maybe, but unless we're near full up, I don't know how that's gonna fly. And it depends again on the, what the season rules are. But it does involve food, and you're probably gonna be under that same umbrella, and it's not gonna be pretty.
See what they say.
The hurl.
Actually, can we do the hunt
Oh,
first?
the hunt.
Oh, hunt.
So
The hunt.
actually, Karen Ann is online, and she just shared an idea that I wanted to share with the group. She says, pumpkin hunt could be dispersed throughout town if need be, with numbers put on the underside of pumpkins and can match numbers to a prize to pick up at a designated location according to the number. Area businesses can partner to be the vendor to hand out prizes according to the numbers. And the golden pumpkin will have a designated business to go pick up their prize if the group agrees to this.
So you think
That works.
Outside the box.
So
Or
there's
yeah, or you
this.
could do like a bingo, like kids could have like a bingo card, and if they get bingo, then they get something, you know?
I mean, they did this, nobody's gonna remember this, but 1,000 years ago, they did that with an Easter egg hunt in town for 2 or 3 years. They were everywhere. There were little kids everywhere.
Okay.
I like that idea.
I do too. I like that.
So Karen Ann, that's a yes if you're listening.
And you're in charge.
I think she knew that part.
I want to make sure she understands it.
And Rick just chimed in to say, going back to the Derby, that he said, I'll have to start planning by May 1 to make it happen if we go forward. Let's wait a bit to see how it goes.
Okay.
Good. Thank you, Rick.
Pumpkin Hurl, have we even talked to them? What's the date we usually talk to,
Andy.
Andy?
I don't know that specific date. I think it's still early. A lot of it depends on their season.
Yep.
In terms of a venue, I think that the conversation that Larry had with In Along the Way, that's certainly an option. And I think that's a great option in terms of space, in terms of spacing of people. We could easily put the 4 slingshots there and have the catapult there as well. So I think it's certainly doable. Obviously, Round Top Farm is out, so can't happen there, but
Yep.
I think it's a good option.
Is all of the area property out?
Yeah.
Inside and out.
And probably, I would assume, do they have any property still up on Belvedere? Well, we did it originally.
Well, yes, they
The
have
town
that.
has
Yeah.
donated, the town has donated a large substantial park up towards the road. Larry just passed away, but, his kids are down there. I know that they still have a good chunk of land, and they're more than willing to work if we needed a spot. That's quite a ways out of the beaten path.
Yeah, and we've learned from past experience that anything up that way is a transportation nightmare.
Well, the DRA, I did clarify, or not the DRA, it's the Coastal Rivers now. But I did confirm with them, because initially they told us that they were closing just the barn. And then when they put out this final statement, it was the barn and grounds. So it was the entirety.
So, I guess you just have to put it maybe and see
Right.
where this farm endeavor leads us. Same thing with the drop, you might as well put the drop at the bottom, because
Right, drops.
if you were to do that, it would have to be up there probably.
I'll follow up with her tomorrow and see if she's ever meeting next.
Might even be a better spot up there.
There's a lot of room up
Times adversity.
there. That's right.
Um,
Lemonades.
Right.
I guess Regatta has to be a maybe, however, that's a huge draw. And like you said, you put one pumpkin in the water and you've got a crowd. Except for the first year we had 7 people.
It's a crowd, just a small
That
crowd.
was including you and Bill.
No, that was including Doug Kerrigan, who didn't bring his camera because he didn't believe us. So, yeah, I mean, we just gotta say, you know, what are the rules as far as distancing, cause that's what's gonna kill you.
Maybe you don't have a race, but maybe you just have them on display throughout the weekend. And I don't know how,
Build boats without water?
no, put them in the water, but they would just be,
Maybe giant poppers.
You know what's
Yeah.
gonna happen? Someone's gonna go down that dock and climb in it. I'm just gonna get in so I can have my picture taken.
That's exactly right.
yeah, no.
Actually, we charge for that, Bill. If you get wet, it's your problem.
I think we'll have to mirror what Tara already talked about. I don't know how we could ever pull that off.
All or nothing.
With,
I don't either.
with socially distancing. I mean, I think the idea of having them down there to show off would certainly prevent the mass exodus of people having to be there for an hour. But you'd have to figure out, maybe you can't have them next to the dock.
Yeah.
Maybe they need to be on their own mooring chain or something out there to show off, so people aren't crawling, you know?
Or you
I
could
don't
give,
know, I mean,
give Tom a lunch, he'd stay out there in the river all day long showing off. Or,
All you gotta do is give him 3 people and
yeah,
he'd be there all day.
right, well, that's,
it's a shame because a lot of people talked about that, you know?
That's what we're famous for.
It's in our name, which makes it rough, but it's not like everybody doesn't know what's going on and what we gotta work with. I mean,
Could you spread it out?
last year they blamed us because we canceled it, and look what happened. Hey, look, we were right. You know, this year at least they know what we're doing, what we're up against.
Could you spread it out at all so that you could use the whole grounds of like Lincoln Home, because they have that big space?
Except you can't put
Is there any way you could, you know what I'm saying, like do some of the riverfront where we typically do it at the docks, but is there a way you could create the event so that you have people on the grounds of Lincoln Home all the way down?
There's 2 issues with that. One is you've got 1 boat launch. 2 is you've got to travel across that,
You got tide.
which plays a big part, and, I mean, we've lost a pumpkin one year,
ran out of
damn near
gas.
down to Cottage Point, because Tommy ran out of gas, and Edwin grabbed another pumpkin squash and rescued him,
Oh my God.
because everybody had left, because, long story,
We got him back though.
we got him back.
He's still here.
I think that's something that we can just work with and we think
Yeah.
outside the box, but it's worth a try.
You can't say no because it's in our name, but
Could you have it and then have some sort of a televised link to it, so we would just make sure people couldn't go downtown and watch it?
Yeah.
Shut the back parking lot off.
Well, that,
Virtual.
yeah, it would require a lot of your employees.
Really, we require a lot of, 5 or 6.
Yeah, and barricades. Yeah.
I don't know about barricades. I think that could be done if it was a matter of you guys still keeping to the heritage and being down there and racing and just people not being able to go.
Sorry, it's not a live event, please watch our streaming, blah, blah, blah.
The event is.
We could
closed.
live stream it. We could live stream it on YouTube, like we do now to the Lincoln Theater. We could live stream it to our Facebook page and YouTube Live. You know, we could do the same 3 or 2 or 3 cameras. We can move on to that. That's
Think about it though, because
Think outside
people
the
loved
box.
watching
There you
it from Lincoln Theater, so if you could stream it, I think people would still get a lot of joy out of seeing it, even if it's later. You know what I mean?
From a resource standpoint, you guys have us, you got 7 or 8 of us. Every single person I
I
know
mean-
is down there anyway.
Right.
go. True, but it's still, I think it goes to the heritage piece.
I think
At least
It
it's-
does.
At least it's done, they can watch it.
it does. But
And everything doesn't have to be, I mean,
Could,
I'll talk against myself here, it doesn't all have to be about the businesses downtown. You know, if we're, you know, obviously you're not gonna put thousands of people down there if we're blocking it off and televising it. You know, they can watch it at home, but, okay, you know, next year, when we can have 1,000 people down there, then it benefits everybody.
could we move the date of the regatta so it's not in alignment with the whole Pumpkinfest weekend? Like have it before and then live stream it like the weekend of? So then people just kind of don't know to be there for it, but we still do it and then we don't have the crowd issue?
Except there's the building of boats piece ahead of time.
There's, I gotta have the people to build the boats.
Gotta have the
They only
pumpkins.
last so long.
Well, I know, but I'm talking about like a week difference. I'm not
Right.
talking about like having it in August.
No,
you
I
know?
understand that, but a week's difference, they're full of water because you already cut them open.
But the week before, we haven't got the pumpkins yet, but we get the pumpkins from the way out.
But if
But
you do it a
Okay.
week later, it's, you know.
I'm
there-
just, like, the thought behind that is to just take the crowd element away by having it, you know, maybe not when we typically would. That's all I'm thinking of.
I think we've got the police force on that.
I think we got enough interest and enough thinkers that we should keep it on the list and we can discuss it more as we move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to.
Man,
Same lines of Paredes.
What is this? I'm having a blank here. What's this information, welcome to Pumpkinfest?
That's Lisa.
But where was that? I don't remember.
So we talked about last year before all this got canceled, we talked about having it on, I think it was on Water Street, sort of near the Oyster Head Pizza place.
Information booth.
Yeah, so it would be the Tidewater, that big
Yeah.
portable, whatever you call that. And that was when we were deciding whether or not to do the info zone along that whole area. So buses would come and drop off people, so now, since that's an issue with the transportation, I still think it's a pretty good location though, because it's,
Central.
yeah, it's very central. But,
downtown, that's the spot.
Yeah.
well, especially if, you know, Colby and Gale is going to have perhaps a food court there, then we could do the, you know, information booth on Water Street. Separate them a little bit.
will you have the new information bureau at the,
No,
by then?
that's a year off,
Okay.
okay?
Well, if that just involves a trailer and a couple of people and info, I don't see any reason
Oh, I think it's fine, and you
That's
can,
what I developed as we
who's
go.
ever inside the booth, which is probably me, you know, you're far enough away from people when they come up, and you can have hand sanitizers and that there. So I think that's definitely a yes from my standpoint.
I manned the booth for the chamber last fall on like Sunday, or not the last time we had Pumpkin Fest, on Sunday, and it was just people just wanting directions basically of like where to find this and what's this mean and that sort of thing, and it was easy.
Info zone. Again, you know, you could have it on Water Street, or you could have it at the farm. It's not a huge crowd drawer, it's like a steady thing.
Exactly.
It's not a lot of people all at once, like a big event.
It's more or less, isn't it just an area for the nonprofits to set up, and then people find their way through it if they're
Right.
interested in looking at whatever they are talking about?
So I know that one of the nonprofits said that it, you know, it's not really a big draw. People don't come to Pumpkin Fest to gather brochures on the nonprofits. So we had talked in the years past about interdispersing a nonprofit that fits in with maybe a major event so that they would get more action. You know what I'm saying? So take a profit and a nonprofit where you could marry kind of the two in that area, or three, and that would make sense. So I think you want to give nonprofits an opportunity to, but we have to figure out where they're going to
We
get
have-
the most.
In the past, when it was on like Water Street, you know, everything's there.
Right.
So that's kind of how that's been, is not putting it off by itself. It's, although one year it was in Newcastle, which didn't work out so good. But if it was on, say, Water Street, and there were fruit in town, and we were having a regatta, or if we're having the anything at the farm, you know, it could be possibly up there, where you're having the other half of the major events.
Right.
And that's where it would go anyway.
But we need a chair for that too.
So is that a
Recruitment.
recruit? 3 seconds, yes.
Recruit.
It's a yes for now, because I think we need to support the local nonprofits. That's,
It's part of our mission statement.
it is part of the mission statement, you're correct.
One of them may be volunteering their property.
Yep,
For the
it could be.
Pumpkinfest.
It might very well be.
The scavenger hunt, the way that was originally put together is it was throughout town, and so it wasn't in one spot. So as long as we could find a chair.
Claire, who ran that last time? Do you remember?
So Lisa Conway was, put it together for us, and I'm wondering though that if the hunt is sort of reimagined as a scavenger hunt
It
throughout
kind
town?
of is a scavenger hunt.
It kind of is, so,
Maybe
That becomes a hybrid.
yeah.
Because the idea behind that was to get
Good
people
idea.
moving through
Right.
the town. That was the whole reason we started
That's a
that
good
a
thing.
couple of years ago. So if we do the hunt differently, that might
Yeah,
take care of it.
yeah, absolutely. And then you don't
We're
need another
lacking
chair.
chairs.
That's the problem.
Yep. All right, I like that hybrid.
Kids zone, no way I'm talking to that.
Well, I talked to Jen this morning.
How's
well,
the weather?
Actually, I talked to Jen in her morning. At 9 o'clock. It was 3 o'clock here. She said kids zone. Her first thing when I talked to her when this first went down with losing Round Top, the first thing she said was, "Well, we'll take it to Water Street." She said, "That's where I've done it for all except for 2 years." She said, "I can take it right back there. That's not a problem. Obviously, weather becomes more weather dependent." But she said that's not a problem. We could go to Water Street if we had to. With the advent of the farm, obviously that's a whole nother piece. But she's in, and she'll figure, she'll
Figure it out,
she'll
yeah.
figure it out as we go forward. So that's a yes if we have space, or even I think that's a yes either way. If we're allowed to have kids games again, like she said, and she rents bounce houses. She's like, how do you do a bounce house in a public event?
It's not an all or nothing deal.
It's exactly, it's an all or nothing. If they haven't lifted the restrictions, she said, I can't send 10 kids into a bounce house and tell them to stay 6 feet apart. He said, they all land in a pile in the middle. So, that's challenges to be figured out there.
So to go, just to what level?
Right.
Transportation. We talked before, and Lesson Learned's a year and a half ago now, believe it or not, about moving our drop-off up to Water Street to eliminate a lot of problems we had in the back street with traffic. So if Jen's gonna move on to Water Street, that presents a problem.
Right, there's.
But the problem's gonna be transportation in general, depending on your
Yeah, it's.
rules.
That's exactly right. I mean, we can get the buses, I'm not worried about that, that's not a problem. I'm sure we can get the flaggers that we had last year. We can get the barricades, I'm talking to a sponsor about maybe sponsoring the barricades. The police department, Chief and I will get together along with the sheriff and talk it all over and,
So it kinda has to be a maybe based on
What are the rules?
Yeah,
What
so
are the
it's
rules?
inside 75% capacity, hopefully, it'll
exactly,
be at least that.
exactly, how many people are they gonna let on the bus and how many people to the seat and all that. And
Yeah.
those are questions we can't
is
answer.
it gonna accomplish what we need to with that capacity? Because if it's not gonna accomplish what we need to, why are we doing it?
Roger,
Keep traffic out of town. Keep people from
anything to
driving in
add to
town.
that?
But if you're putting 12 people
No.
on a bus,
I understand. Maybe we, sorry, go ahead.
I was asking Roger, he used to be involved in a transportation company with a lot of buses, so do you know anything right now what the rules existing are?
No, but I can easily find out. One thing I was thinking about is that one of the challenges is when you have, say you pick up a group of people at the remote parking and you bring down to Water Street, sanitizing the vehicle before you go back and get the other people.
If you're having to do that next fall, it's gonna be a real pain.
Yeah, but I mean, I have some solutions to that. I used to run a huge international transportation company, so I can definitely look into that and kind of find out what the guidelines are now, what the DOT guidelines are as far as social distancing on these types of vehicles.
Right.
I'd be glad to look into that.
Thank you.
It'll probably change, and Yeah, it'll probably change by then, but, I'll know I'll know the dates that they're planning to change them. I can definitely look into that, no problem. Thank you.
I think, are we really gonna see the influx of people if we're not gonna have the parade, like if that's not an option, if we're not gonna have the regatta in live or otherwise, I just wonder, about those 75%, I mean, we're talking 15,000 people bringing them in and out on a Saturday. Yes, we need more than 75%, but if that's not an option, is that really gonna be, I can't envision this being as big as it was if we don't have the parade, or I'm super stressed if it is.
Right.
If they cut these people loose,
Yeah, I
and
know.
they're allowed to go do something,
You're gonna have a big.
They're
fest.
I
coming.
think you're gonna be surprised.
We probably don't have to run an ad in the Boston Globe this
I
year.
don't think we ever have to run an ad again, really. Town relations, merchandise, and marketing, no matter what we do, kind of have to happen.
Yeah, I'll talk with Matt again, go to the town. Tell them we'll throw a party in the middle of October for Main Street. Awesome. Ask for their forgiveness.
I told him.
He sent the police, so I don't know what that means.
I don't know either, but,
You wanna come to a meeting?
At least we're asking for forgiveness. The first parade, when we just did it, we never even asked for forgiveness.
we're all into forgiveness, not asking for forgiveness, so we'll be all right. So I'll get on the town agenda for that in the near future. The other thing I did want to add, that I didn't say earlier, is I wear a new hat, as most of you already know now, and we're up to LCTV. We're already talking about doing multi-camera shoots for the parade and the regatta and a lot of these things that we're talking about. The Derby, we talked about filming that. We talked about Seedling Sunday and the way-offs, and so anyway, there's going to be a lot of filming going on if we can put it together. So we're excited about doing that. So we'll have a big presence as far as filming and for stuff that we can use for shows for later in the fall and then for next year.
Thank you.
I think people are watching online.
That's all I got. Unless anybody's got a question.
Wendy, merchandise, anything?
Oh, we got Bill down the corner.
Oh. Right now I represent Rotary, and I'll be the president of Rotary next year. And Rick made the statement that we will not do the Derby this year, which I agree with him, but it was nice to see him relent. We could do it maybe, so we're still a go maybe. But as an organization, Rotary, I'm a dirty guy. No one's mentioned trash, litter, parking. I throw Rotary in the hat if you let us know if I can help you in any way during this thing. I'd be glad
That's a good point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay!
I have to go early to learn how to be president, so I have another Zoom meeting, so thank you for that. Thank you for letting me.
Jeff, are you still in for? He's got headphones on.
Yeah, he's looking at you.
Yes,
Huh?
website tech.
Website tech and all our technical issues, you still in? Obviously you are right now, but.
Sure.
You aren't going anywhere.
If anyone else is interested in learning, I'm certainly happy to share. It's always good to have cross experience. So if anyone else wants to have anything to do with the website or any of that, please let me know. Happy to share. Happy to share.
There you go. Buzz, go ahead.
I nominate Buzz.
You wouldn't want me.
I've seen
See, you threw me a meatball right there and I didn't take it.
Yeah, I didn't.
So finance, she's here, so she must be in.
So what are we doing? How are we doing? We got any money?
Not telling you, you're a man, you'll spend it.
You were spending it pretty
Yes,
well.
we are.
Yeah. So, yeah.
We did just get, what was the one, Bill, you should know this, when was the one we just got?
Oh, yeah, from our membership.
Membership for
SNG, PG,
Southern.
New England.
From that $15.
But we did just renew for the chamber guides for both Booth Bay and Damariscotta. Memberships.
Southern New England, GPG, I will, next month,
I will send you,
Oh, you emailed me,
I will send
all
you
of them, right?
the 5 that we always
Okay.
re-up. And then the GPC dues, which are $350.
Okay, so I'll just wait for your email to do anything?
That'll be
then?
next month.
Okay.
So you can just disregard
I'll
that, because we'll
disregard
pay it
that.
all
I'll
at
wait.
Oh,
once.
I have to leave for another Zoom meeting too, so,
Thank you, Wendy.
thanks.
Bye, Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
Everybody's zooming.
Admin, Jed and Claire.
Claire, you're first.
I'm in.
Yeah,
So am I. Second the motion. Don't let us do that.
Hey Claire, you've only got a month to decide. Have you decided what you're growing?
I had a little talk with Richard Powell today. I think I've got some, I've narrowed down on the seeds that I received from Maine pumpkin growers, so I think I know which one I'm going with.
Does it start with a 2?
It might.
Okay. Yeah, one other thing, just kind of, this is a formal piece, I've already talked to Buzz and Bill about this. I have to file all the paperwork with the state on the actual board of directors as a nonprofit. We are going to expand our board of directors. The board of directors has always been 3 people, which were Bill, Buzz, and Tom Licious. We're going to expand it by 2 people, keep it as an odd number, of course. We're gonna have our finance person, whoever that is, at this point is Sarah, thank you. And Jen York is also going to go on to the board of directors. In the future, if we have any major decisions, whether it be financial, closing festivals, something that has to be voted on, then those will be the 5 people that vote. The rest of us will obviously have a say as people that are involved with organizing, but the people that will vote will be the board, and that's it.
Second motion. There you go.
Hang on, before people are getting ready to go here, we got a couple other things. Anybody have any thoughts toward, and we don't have to decide this meeting, but by next meeting we kind of do, and it may be all for naught, but Grand Marshal for the parade, we need to start thinking about local nonprofits that we can throw in a pool for who might be the Grand Marshal this year.
So what are the responsibilities?
Get in a car,
And
ride in the
wave.
parade, look pretty. That's about it. We just like to have a grand marshal. And it gives recognition to that nonprofit as being front and center in the parade. They get the
If we have a
advertising
parade.
if we have a parade.
Yeah.
But we could also make them, you know, we could do it as the
Something
grand
special.
marshal of the festival. We
Of
don't
the
have to do it for the
regatta or
parade.
whatever, yeah.
So, yeah, I'll throw out a couple names. I don't know if you want that now or you want to wait till next time.
Oh, sure, we'll take them now.
So, Lincoln Home, I think would be a strong contender just because they have a whole new leadership there, and there's a lot of energy, and they are doing a lot with their residents, so they would be one that I would throw out. The other one would be New Hope for Women, because it's been a really tough year. They've had to deal with a lot in terms of domestic violence and that, so they have played a major leadership role with that. So those are 2 names I would throw out.
Yeah, there was an email that got circulated a while ago where people tossed out a lot of really good ideas. Do you have that by chance?
So what came up on email was the idea of honoring our first responders, and
frontline
also our
workers.
healthcare workers. So those were 2 ideas that bubbled up on email. And we've gotten a couple of suggestions by the live stream, just to share them with you. We have 2 folks who've raised their hand for Mobius. And Karen Ann suggested the Twin Village Food Bank Farm.
That's a good one.
And we actually have a third person who's putting in another vote. 4th, actually. 4 people have said Mobius would be great. So those are just some other possibilities.
Does anybody know, and this is live stream also, do we know if any of our nonprofits are having any kind of like anniversary years or anything like that? Is there anything big like that? I mean, it's always something to look forward to if there's
Celebrating 100
Yeah,
years or
celebrating,
whatever, yeah.
And it's always good to help tag along.
If you could just have a birthday, you
Huh?
donate to a whole nonprofit.
I think so.
Are they?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
Well, those are good suggestions.
They are, even
We
though
did
they're
it
a pretty
an hour and a
healthy
half, so
nonprofit. Yeah, based,
Fair enough.
I know what they charge. Based on their membership cost, they're a
That's the
nonprofit.
rough dates.
Okay.
You wanna put that out there?
501c3.
Not sure what we're gonna have for
But they're
events.
I know, but that's the weekend anyways.
Yeah,
The 2
well,
weekends.
that's the weekend, and depending on what things we can do.
Do we want to discuss the dates, is what I'm talking about, Claire, is the dates of the 2 weekends, the way off weekend, do we have that published yet, or is that, okay, so that's out there. All right, so that's already on the website. So the dates
is
are out
that
there.
So just so everybody knows, and these are the set dates, I assume. May 16th, Sunday, May 16th would be Seedling Giveaway. How that's gonna look and where that's gonna happen and all that, hopefully like it normally has, but to be determined like anything. And then the next 2 dates that are solid are the Volunteer Grower Way Off and the GPC Way Off, October 2nd and October 3rd, Saturday and Sunday. Other than that, I mean, everything kind of falls into place after that, depending on what we do. Deployment would be on the following Thursday. Carving would be Friday and Saturday. Any parade that we happen to do in Kid Zone would be on Saturday. Kid Zone again on Sunday, a derby, catapult, slingshots, and the hunt would all be on a Sunday. Although the hunt could move to Saturday if we needed to.
You may have to move all of those things to spread out the events so that they're not all over.
I'm just saying, as
We're almost
normal.
I know, but you gotta break this whole thing down in 5 minutes, so.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay, we can do this.
Work out.
All right, thank you all who participated online.
It would be at the farm.